Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SCA Coach's Corner. Tonight we have a great show for you. We're going to be going through some of the armored combat heroic champions from this year's Pennsic 51. And tonight with us we have Earl Wigthegn and Sir Arn, the captains of each of those teams. And so without any further ado, I'll go ahead and first ask them to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves. So Wigthegn, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Earl Wigthegn from the Middle Kingdom here in the barony of Brindoken. So, mundanely, that's Northeast Ohio, just south of Cleveland. Been in the SCA since about 2007. Prior to that, I've done foam fighting and a lot of fighting since I was about, I don't know, 15 years old. So, since 95. Yeah. So I'll give it over to Arn then.
Thank you. Well, I'm Sir Arn from the East, mundanely in the New Jersey area. I've been team captain of the Heroic Champion effort for the East and her allies for this would be the third year. I too came from a LARP background as well, foam fighting background as well, starting in around 2005, and came to the society in 2014, and here we are.
All right, thanks very much. So would one of you like to explain? This year we have slight variations on the rule. I mean, every year the Heroic Champions are basically the same format, but there's always slight variations. So one of you want to tell me what the specifics were that this year's scenarios ran with?
Sure. Wigthegn, we could probably jump back and forth on this one.
Yeah, that's good.
So this year was 15 armored combatants, at least three of which were to be unbelted. So basically, we're working with 12 belts and 3 unbelts. And the basic format is that we don't pre-match our pairings. The pairings are made on the field, kind of like a call and response. Some people call it like Pokemon. And additionally, it's you match your knights with your knights, your unbelts with your unbelts, and what else, Wigthegn?
Yeah, so a couple things that were a little different this year is that we actually start the fights off with the princes of each kingdom, East and Middle. They fought to decide who was going to be able to choose first. So instead of flipping a coin, we had the princes fight. So we have Killian, the prince of the Middle, fighting Matthew, the prince of the East. And
which I thought was great. I thought that was a really fun thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great opportunity to showcase our princes because both of our princes have been in the finals a number of times in crown tournaments. They're excellent skilled fighters and they deserve to have spotlight shown on them.
Absolutely. And that was your idea at 100 Minutes War.
Yeah.
I believe, right? Yeah. That was your idea. Yeah, because
I was the prince last year and I thought that would have been such a cool opportunity to do that. So I was glad to see it was implemented this year. And then one other thing that was a couple other things. So we were allowed to have people that participate in the belted champions participate in the heroic champions as well. So this is something that we negotiate back and forth every year on. Some years we allow it, some years we don't. So it's critical for us in the way that we think about who we're going to pair up against people and who's going to participate in which war point.
And it's that of course is definitely a game changer in, like you said, so many decisions and how many contingencies we have for certain people, because in the past 2 years we had a hard rule of you couldn't double dip, so to speak. If you hear the term double dip, that means we're talking about someone who ran the melee, be it belted or unbelted, and also was chosen as a heroic champion. So this year, both sides, the rattan sides were allowed up to 3 double dips, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 double dips on the rattan side, and so we both we kept with our chivalry as our double dip, and then the other one, so the mid realm has an unbelted duke in our kingdom. So one of the fighters that's called out is Earl Ark, and he was he's not a knight, but he ends up fighting another knight. So like Arn said, we try to keep chivalry to chivalry, but a royal peer in this fight counts as chivalry. So
Correct. If you are an unbelted royal peer, you are to be fielded as if you are a member of the chivalry. Yes.
So there was one question here. Duke Tom asked, can you go through what the rules were for the marshals insofar as when they should interject with fighters had issues? What were some of the? Do you know if there was any specific guidance that was out of the normal for what they were supposed to be doing?
No, there were no specific event special guidelines. Like for instance, there were no. I think the term would be active marshaling a Wigthegn.
Active marshaling is what we call it in the mid realm.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, there were no special rules or contingencies regarding how to discuss things.
All right, thanks. Then also one other question, which was basically if you guys could get some idea of how you go about choosing your teams, just so Arn, this is the third time you're captain. Wigthegn, this is the first time you're captain, correct? So
this is the first time.
How do you go about putting together your teams and choosing those teams?
Sure. As we all know, all throughout the year, our crowns are negotiating and jockeying for allies. Sometimes as soon as they step up as prince, after they win the fall. And it's my job to, in the East Kingdom War College, to be in the know about who we have on board, who we might have on board. Sometimes these positions, these heroic champion spots, are used as really coveted bargaining chips to get people on board. Especially if you offer a kingdom an unbelted heroic spot, of which there is only 3 typically. So what's super important is representation for your allies. This year we had a fair bit of representation to cover, and we were happy to have everyone that came on board. I had a great time getting to know a lot of the folks that ended up fielding for us. And so when choosing from a foreign perspective, representation for allies, and then when it comes to in kingdom, all year long, all season long, I'm looking for who's consistently semifinaling in major tournaments, who's winning major tournaments, who is getting really close to winning crown. In the East, we have our king's champion is by right of arms. So that is obviously an important event as well. And that's really it. Seeing who is putting out some of the best effort, some of the best results, and who also, what's really important to me is who can be as cool and calm and collected as possible in a very high stress environment.
Yeah. So this was my first year choosing the team, and so in the past I'd helped our previous commander of this effort, and I've given some consulting advice to His Grace Valharic and His Grace Edmund as they were choosing people for the teams. And so what, like Arn said, first thing is we have to make sure that we are giving the allies what they're looking for. They've made a decision to fight for our kingdom, so spot on the heroics. It's the pinnacle stage for this type of fighting in armored, so we want to make sure we give them an opportunity there. And then when I'm looking internally, our champions are chosen by our crown. So sometimes the champions are the top skilled. Sometimes they are the most chivalrous. So every crown chooses the reason why they choose their champions. But usually we want to try to at least make sure we get champions in there where possible. The other thing too that I was looking for is I wanted to give opportunities to people that might not have normally had these opportunities in the past. Just because I look at things differently than the previous people have looked at it. There's different fight skills and techniques I value differently, and it's also playing a chess match, playing the Pokemon game against Arn here. So if he's going to throw his water type, I'm going to throw my fire type out, something like that. So That's what's going into the teams, and throughout the year, I'm looking at it. I was given the opportunity to do this, and as soon as I was told I was in charge, I'd already started making plans.
Yep.
So how many
it's a
extras?
whole year affair.
So how many people do you actually choose for? Do you have extras chosen for this that may not get chosen, or do you have just the number of people that would match exactly the number of fights?
So I'll start on this one first.
Sure.
So what I did was I went in for my unbelted. We only had 3 that we were going to field. I had 5 that were ready to go. So that way, if someone the day of didn't work out, or I thought a matchup was better, I had someone ready to go for it. We had one of our allies wanted to field one of their unbelted champions, so I had to make sure that I gave our allies the opportunity to do that because they made the decision. For the belted, I had a couple people in reserve that were able to participate as needed when needed. So I had about 3 people of the people that I had fighting. And I even had an ally that was prepared, ready to go in case I needed to pull another ally.
That's really interesting and cool because I have, as I think I've got a pretty different outlook on it. While of course I have contingencies for injury, like I had an injury last year that I had to fill quickly, and I was able to, of course. But I like to make the relationships throughout the year, reaching out to crowns and then getting who they want to put out, and then getting to know them a bit, talking to them on Facebook, talking to them on site. And I have a pretty tight 15 by the time Sunday rolls around. I'm going to people's camps, taking attendance, if you will. And I definitely didn't have as many contingencies or stand-ins as you did, Wigthegn. I had a contingency for an Eastern Unbelt, and a couple of the chivalry that I had spoken to was like, hey, if something happens, more so like alternates, you know what I mean? Just for kind of break in case of emergency situations. But I like to keep to develop and really keep a tight group and of a set list of 15 people. And by the time Sunday rolls around, everyone is present and accounted for, on the field and ready to go.
All right, before we get into the videos, there's 2 more questions here that were asked. One of which was the question about you said Duke Ark was fighting essentially as considered to be in one of the Shiv spots. Is a royal peer the peer who won by right of arms, or all royal peers would be considered to be in that spot?
The rule was by right of arms.
By right of arms.
Yeah.
And the second question was, like, how do you balance weapon systems or options? So do you actually think about when you're selecting team, the variety of weapon systems, 2 weapons, glaive, sword and shield, whatever, or is that just part of the chess match as you're throwing people out?
A lot of that is part of the chess match in real time. It's the onus is on us as the captains to have a well-rounded team with different weapons forms to find those matchups that might benefit like for instance 2022 and 2023, or was it 21 and 22? I forget. 2019 and 2022. I apologize, COVID years. Where there was a matchup 2 years in a row with Duke Maynard of Ethelmark versus Sir Douglas Henry of the East. Probably one of the best polearms ever to play the game versus a 2-sword legend. And so that matchup, while it's a phenomenal matchup, didn't go in Doug's favor, because of the style clash there. So a lot of it takes place on the field in real time when Wigthegn and I are calling and responding and talking to each other about who we're putting out. And then it's really important to have just a couple, different weapon systems in play. For instance, this year I had 2 sword shield primary allies who also had really good Madu, and I gave them complete, hey, if you feel like this matchup is best for your Madu, I take your word for it. So I had a bit of contingency built into there too.
Yeah, that's a lot of what my contingency planning is for, and my alternates and things like that, is to kind of match up the styles of what I think is will work well against what is being thrown at me. But remember, this is a call and response, so where I get a chance to respond to what Sir Arn throws out there, he's got the same opportunity to do that to me too. So there was a case where I threw out a polearm thinking, I was like, yeah, he's not going to throw out the other guy, and then sure enough, he throws out the perfect counter to mine. I was like, oh, darn it, he called me on this one. So it's a fun chess match. It's the Pokemon analogy is perfectly suited for this.
All right. So without any further ado, if you guys don't have anything else to lead into, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the first of the fights, which the first of the fights is the two heirs. So there's Killian and is it William, you said?
Matthew to Artie.
Matthew, sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, Prince Matthew. Yep.
So I'm going to go roll this one and let you guys talk about it as it goes through.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say here is that Killian is not using his normal sword. He decided to take a sword from someone else and and use it out there to honor them. And so it was he put himself at a little bit of a disadvantage, but that's okay. He's the prince. He's already earned his glory.
Fair enough. When I was prepping His Highness for this contest, I have some experience in this arena with your prince from 2022, and I explained to Matthew that there was a good chance that that your prince wouldn't have really had any real reps with a really weird lefty like Prince Matthew is, and that would probably go in his favor. But I still was like, hey, you should probably be conservative-ish and play some keep away. You know what I mean? Because I know that your prince is a really good brawler. When I faced him in 2022, all I did was play keep away, and that's what I suggested Matthew do as well.
Yeah. So Killian is his Highness is like lightning fast.
Yeah.
I've watched fights with him where he's just able to get that shot in and things like that. It's just very impressive on how fast he can move. So I think that he would have probably been better suited to just kind of brawl a little bit in there with your Highness.
Yep.
Because I think that would have kind of suited him a little bit better in this situation. But
possibly, for sure.
And if he would have had his butt spike on his sword, I think that was the other thing that
he is a butt spike guy on the sword.
He is a butt spike guy on the sword. So
yep. In preparation, I watched a lot of the fights he had in Crown with Ingolf.
Oh yeah.
Just to see how he moved, and his movement when he's in the suck, so to speak. The way that he moves and bobs and weaves is really, really good. And I watched a lot of those fights with him just so I had a bit more content on him. Matt here is just trying to find that arm, be safe, and then he takes that jump soon. Like that throw right there. He tried that on me in 2022, and it came damn close to getting me.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I was not comfortable at this time watching this go down. I was still really on my
Yeah, I was just my whole thought was, Matthew, please get just a hair closer.
Yep.
So that body shot comes in and hits him.
But he was being good and conservative, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because I know that was the game plan, and I appreciate him sticking to it.
Yeah. So someone asked about the shield that His Highness Matthew's using. Being a rather large shield, and I think for you guys, like, that's a normal size shield for
that
the
is
VDK guys.
Yeah. So the Duchy van Drakenklaue is known for that size shield, that shape shield, that strapped kite like that.
Yeah.
So in Kingdom in the East, that's fairly normal to see.
Yeah, because I was going to say that I remember back in the day seeing Lucan using that, Brennan uses that. So Duke Kenrick unfortunately passed,
Yep.
used it. So yeah, absolutely.
Very common.
So is there something you wanted to go back to on that, or do you want to go to the next one?
No.
So just a little, just like a little insider info. So my contingency here was with the assumption that Matthew was going to win. I had spoken to who we're going to watch next, the King's champion, the Sovereign's champion of the East, Count Ryu. I asked him months in advance. I'm like, hey, if Matthew wins, are you good to be leadoff? And because finding someone that's comfortable to be leadoff hitter for this event is difficult, So luckily, and he obliged, and that tees us up for what's coming up next.
Yeah. So when you announced Ryu, Count Ryu, I was like, okay, I need to get someone in there who can work someone with two sword. So this is where I went with Earl Louis, who was crowned at Pennsic last year.
Yep.
So dark-haired fighter, known for his very explosive movements, a lot of footwork. He's one of the guys that does a lot of the footwork training. Constant person on this channel. So, I think that's something that I was like, okay, Ryu isn't I haven't seen Ryu really kind of move like that. So my hope was like, okay, this is where I can use some footwork to maybe secure a victory.
Totally. And I was thinking that all right, I put out Ryu, he's going to answer with Louis or yourself. I thought that there was a chance that you would take it as well, because it's your first time out in the position. You know what I mean? I thought it was a possibility, but great call though, because you're right with Louis' footwork and Ryu being far more of a I would call a firing platform, right?
Yeah.
And it was still a great call, and this was just really a masterclass in expert level keep away and watching Louis trying to find his clean opening,
Yeah, absolutely. Because Louis working this pressure game, and
Yep.
he's staying at measure, working the pressure game, trying to see where he can get Ryu to, make a mistake. Ryu, it looks like and feels like he fights very similar to Count Seto from the mid realm.
Similar.
So this is where I was like, okay, this is the best person to probably throw up against it. You're right though. I was thinking about going up against this because but the last time I had fought Ryu was at a Adult Swim several years ago.
A long time ago. Got it.
Yeah, so before he won his crown. So
sure. And Ryu's game has changed a little bit where he's a bit more points forward. He, as you see here, that's how he keeps his measure. That's how he keeps his pressure. Really just trying to keep Louis, A, off of him, and B, second guessing himself. That's what the game plan was just, give some pressure, give some chop here and there, and then find your point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think definitely good. And and I think you'll see something interesting here where Louis starts to kind of try to do some baiting with the head, trying to get the head in there, seeing if he can get some attempts at a thrust and stuff like that. To bite on it. And so far Louis doing really good job at staying at that range. And it's not, doesn't really give Seto much to really target well.
That's for you, not Seto.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that body thrust though was pretty close there.
It was
give him a little scare.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, like, again, I can't stress it enough. Masterclass in all that Louis teaches, right? All that he does here, all that he does at Pennsic for the Coach's Corner pickup field, like all those drills, putting it on display. And, Ryu just being as calm, cool, and collected as possible, taking
Yeah.
his shots, taking his chip shots, not letting it get, not letting the footwork, get him turned around really at all. Like, he stayed in front of him the entire time.
Yeah. So there was a time later here in the fight. I think it's interesting that Ryu is starting to do this, kind of leaned over to the left and things like that. Kind of telegraphing what he's going to do, because he starts doing the Mullene with his right.
Yep.
And I really, for me, like, that's when I saw him start doing that Mullene to the right. That's why I was like, okay, this is the opportunity to strike, because he would bring his left down.
Sure.
So.
Because you're right, he was keeping his left real good and real static, just like that.
Yep.
And then once he started throwing a bit more, and then I think yeah.
Yep.
Like
there's going that Mullene.
Yep. He chucked that a few times.
Yeah, and you can see where that left starts really low, and it's like, okay.
Right there. His left is up. Yep.
Yeah, but you notice this is something that, like, a lot of the Dark Yard fighters will do, where they'll just let you throw into their defense, and then when you get frustrated, you back off. They just stare at you, and then they just start pressuring in on you again. So, and this is where he got the thrust. So,
yep,
it was a beautiful face thrust. Good job on Ray.
Yeah, it was. That was the whole plan. Was like keep him in front of you and find your point.
Yep. So the next fight here, this is an unbelted fight.
Yeah, this is Avengar against Skinna Steiner.
Yep. I was lucky enough to get passes with. It's Avengar, you said?
Yeah, Avengar.
Yes, I met him formally at Adult Swim this year. He's very talented. Was really happy to see him out there. I had him in the back of my brain because I didn't. So he has a very a recognizable helmet. Yeah. And as I was peering at you all with my binoculars before the fighting, I didn't see him on the field. So that was so I had him written down as with like a question mark. I didn't know his name, but I think I wrote down like weird barboot question mark.
Yeah.
And so my fighter here is Steiner. Steiner was fielded last year for Atlantia as well against us. Really great hands. I believe he's squire to the current Prince Randall, I believe.
Oh yeah, Prince Randall. Yeah.
Yep. So I know a lot of his line. I've been friends with him for a long time, and I got some good pickups with Steiner as well at Adult Swim, and I was convinced that he was still the right choice.
Yeah.
And this was a great contest.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I think he also won the Squires tourney last year at Pennsic.
I believe you're right. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So Avengar, he is a local fighter. So he's in the Brindoken area. So he's been on the unbelted champions team a number of years. So he's actually one of the guys I train with. So
got it. That's helpful.
Yeah. So he's definitely one of those guys that I think I've got a really good impression on what he does and and how he fights and stuff like that. So I feel this was a good showcase for him.
Definitely was. And there's also great communication between both of them throughout the actual fight, which was awesome to see.
Yeah, and that was one thing I stressed with my unbelts was, you're going to be in this fight here. Your job is to not dishonor the kingdom, and and communicate. Communication is key. Don't just, if something hits light, you say it was light. You make it very clear, so your opponent knows. Don't leave any questions on the field.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got that nice, quick, flat onside. I remember it from Adult Swim. He's got great hands.
Yeah.
Your guy.
Yeah, I don't think I've been able to fight Steiner before.
I was waiting for Steiner. So him and a lot of his line, especially Randall, have a phenomenal offside Molinet, like deep armpit. And I was waiting for him to chuck it, and he was focusing a bit more on like the onside wraps, like that attempt there. or to try and leg him. And I was waiting for him to really start throwing those deep offsides, like flat in front of him. And it just didn't develop.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I thought he would have picked up that offside better. Steiner would have picked up that offside better from Avantgarde. But that
it was really well thrown. Though.
Yeah, and that's a shot that he practices a lot. So it was really good on him.
It hit well. It hit really well. I watched that offside a few times because I didn't really remember like what the leg was, and then I saw it. I'm like, oh man, that was pretty masterful, actually. That was really well done. Great angle.
Yeah.
And then they're talking, I think, and he's gonna take that. Yep.
Yeah, it was just like right at the bottom of like right here on the
helmet. Great fight.
Yeah, good representation from both those.
For sure.
Yeah.
The next fight then is going to be Edward and Ingolf.
Gotcha.
So Duke Edward and Sir Ingolf.
I had put out Ed, and Ingolf was your answer, yes?
Yeah. I was responding with Ingolf. So yeah, because you announced first, and then so this is one of the cases where we didn't match up precedents.
You sure didn't.
Yep. So I threw out there Ingolf, with you throwing Ed out there, again trying to go for that high pressure, fast moving, fast footwork, fast hands, for Count Edward or for Duke Edward.
Ingolf and I came up together, very similar to how you and I came up together. I know, and we've been competing around each other for a long time, and it irked me for a second because a part of me wanted that fight, a pretty large part of me wanted that fight, but I knew immediately that this was going to be a great fight, so it didn't bother me at all at the end of the day, and it didn't bother me much after what happens. But watching Ingolf come in just like I knew he would, the side steps, and Ed using his length and his range to do just a little bit of checking.
Yeah. Oh. We lost the.
No, they're coming.
Okay. All right.
He's coming because it's right. It's coming up now.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. So again, that high pressure fight from. And that was a beautiful, just throw the shot into the shield and then boom, right into the stab into the face.
I had I was in the finals with Ed at a Kingdom tournament month this year, and I saw him throwing that exact thing because against center grip, he's tall enough that chop shot comes down and throws you offline. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get back online fast enough and you're still going forward like Ingolf was, it's a done deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something that I know. So we get in the comments here that they were doing pickups. Fox and Edward were doing pickups. But a little too lazy with his shield. So that's his Grace Ronvalder. So that is Ingolf's knight.
He was showing a whole lot of helmet.
He was.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, there was a lot of, using that air of confidence that he was trying to put out there.
But that's a thing though. Like I get that, and I know Ingolf hasn't gotten to go out there since 2019. So this was his chance to come out. I get it. You're excited, man. Like it's definitely a tactic. Just a little bit too much helmet. That's all.
Yeah. And Ingolf, Louis were both on our Heroics Champions team too. So they had just gotten off the Heroics fight Belted Champions team, and they had just gotten off of that and moved over to this list.
All right, I have the next one queued up. It was having a little bit of problems there, but this is Gatto versus Ethelwyn, if you're done with the last one.
Yes. Okay. Ethelwyn is an awesome unbelt Amadu fighter from Onstiora. In my discussions with His Majesty Sven, he put her forward and got to know her a bit on site. Awesome attitude, just a ball of energy, and when you put out that's from Meridies or Chimeras?
Yeah, so that is Gato from Meridier. So I asked His Majesty Sebastianus for who would he like to showcase, and he wanted to showcase Gato here. He thought very highly of him as one of his top unbelts
Awesome.
from his kingdom. So I was really happy to see the matchup here against Ethelwyn. Because I know that line of fighters down there with His Majesty Sven, and I know what type of fight they bring. So I was like, okay, we're gonna see a good fight here for sure.
Absolutely, and she brought exactly what I was hoping for. Great control with all the points she had. Great pressure, but it was also a good back and forth. Honestly, it was some great blocks picked up on both of them.
Yeah. So something interesting that I noticed is we're seeing more Madus showing up in the heroics. Like this is I think this is the first one that we see. We'll see a couple more later.
This is first of 3.
Right. And then last year I think there was at least 2, if not 3.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see more Madus, and I don't know if that's something that you guys are seeing in the East, but
not even a little bit.
We're seeing more Madus for sure in the mid realm. So we're starting to play that game a little bit.
We're holding out.
Oh, that'll make some people in the mid realm happy.
Yeah, and she just came at him, man, and like.
Oh yeah, and the top spike there, right there, trying to get that top spike in on him was phenomenal.
She almost gets this thrust. I think he slips it over his shield. It looked like he leans back real far.
Yeah.
Before that, but
the down thrust on the Madu, yeah. Because he was going for both of them. He was like trying to.
Yep. And then when she stuck this one.
Yeah, that was good because it's got the down thrust and then came in with the flat snap to the head to just seal the deal. It was awesome.
It's a great combo that I know that they drill to no end down there.
Yeah. If you've ever worked with His Majesty's Sven, you know what they do to drill shots, and I went down there last year. It was painful. So
I watched the video. There's video. I watched it.
Yeah. Someone says her point control on the chat was great, was impeccable, and I agree. That was a well placed, well done shot.
But super happy that that was the choice. It was a great fight.
And Gato did very well too. I mean, for 100%. Someone who, he had an opportunity to show the Meridiers and do well, and he did a phenomenal job. He was pretty fast. I wish I would have got a chance to do some pickups with him later.
For sure.
Later in the week. Sure. So
absolutely.
Good future for that guy.
Definitely.
All right, so this next one ends up featuring His Grace Uller against His Excellency Ozer.
Yep, I threw out Ozer, and you answered with Uller, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So what's interesting is this is I found out that this was the first time that His Grace Uller had fought in a heroics.
Oh, cool.
So
cool. I don't know Uller well. We've met. I don't think we've ever had passes. I was confident when I saw the the height difference. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then when I was able to see the kind of aggression that Uller can put out, really in that A- to that A- to B- range. You know what I mean? Like being very, very ballistic, if you will. I was surprised. But this was actually a really good fight. I was really happy with the communication with both of them, and then also just overall, this is the kind of matchup that we look for when we start matching royal peers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's His Grace Uller is one of the guys that is in Kingdom. He's winning the tournaments.
Yes.
There's a handful of guys.
He won something this year, right?
He won Christmas tourney. He's won Christmas tourney twice in a row.
Awesome.
Yeah, this year the last Christmas tourney was against Duke Ark in the finals, and the year before it was against myself.
Got it.
So yeah, so he has martial arts background. He's a martial arts trainer, instructor, and stuff like that. So he's definitely understands a thing or two about fighting for sure.
He was Duke Guler was doing a great job getting his arm back and getting his shield where it needed to be just to get that edge off, and then that advance right there on Ozer was very well executed.
Yeah.
Then most of this fight is from the ground.
Yeah. So I think I haven't fought Ozer one-on-one, but fought him in the Belted Champions. So he was the one that took me out in that fight. So
he can do that. Yep, he can do that. He's just strong as hell. We're very, very close friends. We train as much as we can together. He's up in Canada now.
Oh, okay.
But he's from the New York Metro. He's a Nutley guy. And I miss having him being super close, but he comes down a lot, and it's great when he does. And I really tried to push him this year. He did well in a couple of big tournaments, and he trained because he's coming off of a really good win from last year at Heroics. And this was a good fight for him. Didn't go his way, but at the end of the day, it's definitely it's one to learn from.
Yeah, that fight last year was against Duke Zipser from Aidenveld. So that
he was the king at the time, or the prince.
Yep. Yeah, he was the king at Pennsic.
Yep.
Yeah, so His Grace Uller, is I think he's our first Duke from Kentucky.
Oh, cool.
So he's from the South Oaken region of the Mid-Realm. So he was the first Duke from there. I think he was also the first Royal Peer, if I remember correctly, from that region.
I believe so.
Yeah, so he's got a great household, number of knights in his household and things like that. And he's also a spear guy too. So as his His Grace Tom has said in the chat, 6-foot spear, 9-foot spear. Never want to be on the other opposite end of him.
And Uller's doing a great job here, not staying in Ozer's ballistic range.
This is what he does. This is his game. He wants to stay at range, and he wants to just be there, just nipping away at you and just getting you frustrated. And then
Ozer
just taking these shots.
But Ozer came close a few times, but he was getting that shield around, and he was getting, but he was getting bits on those shots coming in from the ground.
Yeah.
Nice attempt. It's close.
Yep.
That was close with that thrust.
I was worried about that double tap that Ozer started to do. I was like, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
So that double tap,
I never gave up on my buddy. This was a fight the whole way through.
Yeah.
There it is. Quick discussion, which was a good discussion.
Yep, with that armpit shot.
Yeah, and because there was some contact on the way out of the armpit shot, but it was definitively on the way out.
Yeah. Late blows and stuff like that.
Yep. Great fight.
Yeah. Oh, so this one, we had the opportunity of throwing His Majesty of Avakal out there. So
yes.
So we went. So His Majesty, I asked His Majesty, who would you like to put in heroics? And I was like, and mind you can get in heroics if you wanted to. And he's like, so him and the Duke talked about it, and His Majesty decided that it's his chance to shine. So which was great. So I was really excited to throw His Majesty John out there.
And he was fighting
Hugo.
Sir Hugo von Gutenbach of Atlantia.
Yeah, so a speedy guy.
Yes, known for his speed. Hugo is the only one to give me a loss in Heroic Champions. On the back of my shield that I fight with, it says "and one" to remind me. Hugo and I are good pals. I consulted with His Majesty Christoph, and he thought that, and he agreed that that putting Hugo out was a great idea. And he was actually a late addition. I had some changes happen at kind of late in the game, and I was happy to be able to field Hugo for the first time as a knight.
Oh, awesome! So when you lost to him, he was an unbelt.
Yeah, 2017.
Got it.
Yep. And Hugo likes to leave his feet a little bit. He likes to jump around a lot. I had no knowledge of His Majesty of Avakal, but I trusted that Hugo would be able to perform as I know that he can, because he's top of the game out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so His Majesty
Also,
John is a tourney fighter from Avakal, and so I think I had the chance to watch some of the videos from up there. It was definitely some good fights, and His Majesty won the day, obviously. So I was pretty confident throwing him out there. I was like, I think he's gonna do good, and he's using that like kind of that Antir Avakal like square shield. So
that high tight guard. And fun fact about Hugo is also a phenomenal polearm fighter. And I gave Hugo the choice. I'm like, hey man, I kind of would prefer your sword and shield, but if you trust your polearm, man, you know what I mean. But I am happy that he chose to go in with his primary form.
Yeah, absolutely. So His Grace Thomas said Red Griffin versus Black Griffin here. So
that's a good point. I think it's right around here. It's getting there. It's like a flying onside to the head.
Yeah. So
there.
Yep. Yeah, that was great. If actually go back to the past, like before that a little bit, Sivrid. So there's this just the speed of which Hugo's moving here, which is just is pretty awesome. So I think it's right after this, because there's like 3 like engagements before, or 2 engagements before he died, and it's one of those engagements. Yeah, that one right there. That real quick thrust to the Molinet shot is just like, yeah, and he did the reverse of it right there at the end, and then just kind of that having it. John, His Majesty was taller than Hugo for sure, and so like just seeing him have to jump up just to get that nice, slot right in on him.
Very pretty fight.
Yeah,
very pretty fight.
Very, very good. Very, very well executed on both parts.
So, Wigthegn, you were saying this is a little choppy video, is that right?
Yeah, it was a little choppy there, but it got fixed. So
it got fixed. Okay, so
it fixed itself.
Okay, I want to make sure, but if I didn't reset anything, I would try to. But if we're good, we're good. Let's see, wrong setting. There we go. So this next one is Duke Ark against Duke Maynard.
Yep.
So whose call was this one?
I think I started.
Put out, yes.
Yeah, so I started. So this is our royal pair who is in a chivalry, Duke Ark. So one of the mid realm's best polearm fighters.
For sure.
And so he's another one of those guys that is getting into the finals of tournaments. He obviously finaled at Christmas tourney. He's won a number of other tourneys, within the kingdom. So, he's a very diverse weapon style. He doesn't have to fight the one true form, which is polearm, as Duke Tom is reminding us in chat. But It's so so. But yeah, his grace is definitely one of the good ones with polearm for sure. And so
And
in
I
this
was
again,
yeah.
first time fighting in heroics. So
This one threw me. This one threw me off. I didn't expect it, which was great. That was different, you know. And I was just. I'm always whenever Ethelmark lies with the East, I'm always very happy to offer a spot to His Grace Maynard von Demstein. Very very well known in this arena, and I couldn't pass this one up for sure. It's not often that polearm guys get to fight each other in this kind of arena, and I was happy to make it happen.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Duke Maynard is hands down. He sits there at the top of the polearm game.
He just does. He does it different. He does it his way, and it works.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting here to seeing the point control work on both just seeing that slip there that Maynard did.
Yep.
Was just beautiful because Ark is very precise, very accurate with his polearm. And getting in there like that, and he's not afraid to get in there and hit away.
Yep, and there was that
right to the pocket. Yeah, right to
Yep.
the pocket of the crease right there at the leg and the hip. So it was a very well executed stab and things like that. Yep.
And takes the dagger out. That was great.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm happy. I'm happy that we got to see that. You know, that was a great one for the crowd.
Yep, absolutely. You don't get to see polearm fighters like that, like you said, get to square off like that too much, and it was great to see those two do it.
And this next one we have two Dukes with Fabian and Cygnus. So
this is frustrating to me in all the best ways.
It's a funny situation, honestly, Wigthegn, because I had assumed all the way up until the meeting of the crowns on the Saturday before that the West was going to be with the East, and I had spoken with His Majesty West and secured Duke Fabian, and they decided to go with the mid, which is totally fine. So I didn't have Duke Fabian, but I still had Duke Cygnus from on the team for months at this point. I was lucky enough to become good friends with His Grace Cygnus via his son being in Kingdom for a while, Sir Aaron the Swift.
Yeah.
And I remember fighting Duke Cygnus at 100 Minutes War, saying, "Hey, you're gonna be on my team, man." And he wanted to prove it to himself. And he had one heck of a season. Coming in second at Burka, first time at Burka, and winning Ice Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just a great fight between two titans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in a little bit about His Grace Fabian, His Grace has finaled in the last two West Kingdom Crown tournaments.
Yes.
So, he is, obviously, has won many crown tournaments out in the West. I got a chance to meet him for the first time down at Gulf Force, and I fought him, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And so when I found out we had the West as an ally at Baron Brat's Meeting of the Kings, or Kingsmead, whatever it's called, I went to His Majesty Connor and asked, who would you like to bring to the heroics? And he initially had gave me Count Sigurfrith, who had just recently stepped down. And so I was like, okay, cool. We're going to do this. I know Sigurfrith well, and so I was like, all right, we'll figure out where you're going to fight, who you're going to fight, and stuff. And unfortunately, Sigurfrith had to step back just due to something the day of. And so me and His Grace Valharic went over to West Kingdom camp and asked His Majesty, it's like, who else can we use from the West? We still want you to have a spot. And so he's like, Duke Fabian. And I was like, excellent, perfect choice, Your Majesty. And so I was very thrilled. And then so I'm like, okay, cool. I've got His Grace Fabian. This is gonna be awesome. Ah, and
think
you
this-
threw out his great
Yeah.
Cygnus, and I've gotten a chance to know Cygnus very well, his grace, over the last year or so too, because he lives in the part of Ethelmark that is relatively close to the mid realm.
Yep.
So I see him at events all over the place, and every time we fight, and he's working, and he's his son is knighted now. He's trying to make sure that he can compete with his son, and
Yep.
it's phenomenal. And
It was great to see. It was great to see that caliber of contest.
Yeah.
For sure. And
Mhm.
but of course I was it's weird to say that that I'm proud of a Duke, but I'm very happy to see how hard he worked
Yeah.
and how it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in regarding Duke Fabian too. I mean, Duke Fabian is someone who when I first started, I heard about Duke Fabian. He was like a pillar. So he was one of these legendary fighters I would go on YouTube and watch. And for a long time, I didn't really hear anything about him. So I was like, okay, I guess something's uh, gone on. But then all of a sudden he starts showing back up again and things like that. And so one of the things is like he's fighting with like this Pavis, and one of the things he told me was like, yeah, this is a little smaller than my normal Pavis. I was like, you're still finaling at Crown, man. You're still a legend to me.
Absolutely.
So we had a question in there, the chat, about is Fabian the king that had the awesome fight with Branos from a few Pennsics ago? No, that's not. Fabian was not that person. That was
Similar kit.
his. It was his Majesty Hans, who unfortunately had passed away. He is the one that had the epic fight with Branos.
Yeah.
So, which is and they do a lot of that lands connect thing out in the West. So
Oh yeah.
you see a lot of that look. So it's hard to kind of identify. Okay, who's who? Because of the lands connect look.
All right. So the next fight up is Morgan and Douglas.
Yeah.
So another Titan clash here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are two people that have been in heroics a number of times, so they kind of understand what's expected in the fights, and that's
Yeah, I mean, like Wigthegn, like you have to, of course, believe that Doug is going to be on the list 9 times out of 10. The only
10
reason
out of
why
10 usually.
Well, last year was different. Last year I got a text message at work saying that I rolled my ankle doing pickups. So.
Oh no,
But
that's what happened to him last year.
That's what happened to him. Yep, I'm putting him on blast, but he knows It's okay. It's okay. He loves me. But
Yeah.
Yep, this was I put out Doug, or no, you put out Morgan.
Yeah.
Grace. Yes.
Yeah. And I think if we kind of look at Douglas's kind of win-loss record, I mean he's been in 4 or 5 heroic champions, at least that I'm aware of, and he's done a really good job. And same with Morgan. They both know what's expected, and they've been here before many times.
Yes, many times. Doug opened exactly how I thought he was going to open with the coming sequence.
And Douglas was he was a king of Acher too, wasn't he?
He's right now in this video is the Prince of Acher.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He's currently reigning with his daughter.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is one of those fights where it was just, I think we look for clear and decisive wins in the fight, and we don't always get that. So, yeah, it was the important thing I think here is The
They spoke
marshals,
with the marshals. Yep.
the marshals bring them together, and they talk out what happened. We don't always get the most decisive wins and clean wins. And it's the nature of the combat. We're not the ones in the armor. It's hard for us to make a decision on if it was good or not, but
It's the nature.
yeah.
It's the nature of what we do.
Yeah. So I think we're going to go on to the next fight now. So this is I forget the Outlander's name. Was it Rourke?
That was Rolif.
Rolif. Okay.
Yep. Awesome guy. Was super happy to get to know him. Was chatting with him the whole day as he was waiting around. I think he took a nap. It was great. He was just having a fun time.
He was right in front of me the whole time, just kind of hanging out with the Western guys that were in front of us.
Yep.
So
I had to walk right up to you. Like, come on, buddy, it's your turn.
Yeah. So we had a question in here. And your grace, Tom, we see your comments. We're not ignoring them, but so, yeah. So, but from Ghostasm, if you could pick any two fighters, past or present, who would your dream matchup be to watch? So I'll let you go first, Arn.
So pick two?
Pick two.
Man, okay. I'd like to see. Man, put me on a spot. There's a video to watch.
You talk about this fight first because it's a quick fight. So.
Yeah. We will get back to that. It is a quick fight, unfortunately for me.
Yeah. So this is Tristram, Sir Tristram from Eldamere. So he's I think he placed second at Ice Dragon.
Okay.
Just after Cygnus. So two sword guy.
Wrapped him up right there. Yep.
Yeah, he was. He fights a lot of Madu, so I was very kind of confident when I saw Rolif go out. I was like, okay, Tristram, this is your chance to shine here, buddy.
For sure. Good clean matchup. Great guys, absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things too with Tristram and Eldamere in general is we were trying to make sure that Eldamere didn't get forgotten. Sure. I've seen too many times in Heroics where an ally was forgotten or someone was like that, and His Majesty of Eldamere said, "Don't let this happen." I was like, "I'm on it, Your Majesty, won't happen." So made sure Tristram got out there.
So let's see here. Two matchups, right? Past or present?
So I would say is Uther, and he's one.
I'd want to see Duke Gregor of the East versus like Miles.
Oh, Miles from the West.
Just to see what happens. Just to see that perfect old school fundamentals of ICOD and the East.
Yeah.
Versus, and the same can be said for like Stefan von Dresden, right?
Yeah.
Like Stefan, like that line, right? That line of A-frame sword and shield strap heater versus the wonkiness, but deadly wonkiness that is His Grace Miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that would be phenomenal to see. And I'll take a new versus old as well. I think what would be interesting to see is someone from the Ansturia two-stick line, Duke Sven's line.
Sure.
See some new school two-stick fighting against some of the more like heroic fighters from like Atlantia.
Sure.
So like
sure. Ragnar Blackhammer.
Ragnar would be a good one. There's a number of them down there. I think that would be awesome to see some of those guys.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun fight to watch. So I think because I've seen that Duke Sven, go up against some of the West in Heroics before. So I think seeing that in the East would be really interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, Jade versus Stefan von Dresden. That would be an awesome
Jade
one.
versus Stefan von Dresden. Wow, what a
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next bout up here we have coming online is Durangi in the green over here against Roger from Calentier. So Durangi's from the middle. So I don't know who was the call from this one.
I was so happy to see Durangi, by the way, out there. Just as an aside, he's such a great guy.
He is. Durangi is phenomenal. So Durangi participated in Heroic Champions once before as an unbelt, and so this is part of one of my strategies here was I need to build new people for the Heroics.
Sure.
So I wanted to give some new people some opportunities. And so in the chat, Barry said Sven versus Cullen, and I was like,
yeah,
that's the fight I wish I would have saw. So
and
Barry,
you
saw it, I didn't.
By the way, is my fighter here is Sir Roger Warwick, who is the King's Champion of Calentier.
Yeah.
Another guy who has a sword and shield and a Madu capability. And again, told him that, hey, you make your call. Personally, I think that he probably should have went out shield, but he actually put up a really scrappy fight.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, I was really happy to see that it was a Madu fighter going up against Durangi, because effectively Durangi's shield, being left-handed like that, and the fact that he can get under his shield and have it completely cover him, really kind of gave him what I thought was the edge in the fight. And so
for sure, almost had that thrust. Yep.
And then that's what I was hoping was going to happen, that Madu was going to get tied up with the shield, and so that Madu goes completely sideways on him.
Yeah, it completely inverts. Yep.
So Uther versus Diedrich. Uther versus Diedrich. That's a good one too.
Yikes!
You started actually answering Antigone's question, which is, what's your group's take on using the same fighters year over year? I mean, there's epic fighters people want to see paired against other epic fighters, but what's the point? Start refraining from using the same people. At what point do you do that? So, some thoughts about that?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. So, the last year, actually, it's funny. Wigthegn and I were talking about this before we went on air. Last year, I fielded a couple people who were first timers. This year, with the amount of allies that I had to also cover, I stuck with a couple of what I would call the old guard, but also guys that hadn't been out there in a while. So but Wigthegn is correct. There does have to be a bringing up of newer knights and newer unbelts into this kind of into this spectacle, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know for a fact that I like to fall into my comfort zone, it's going to be me and Doug and this guy and this guy and this guy. And that won't always be the case. It can't be the case, Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the same on ours, from my side too. One of the things I wanted to do was bring up some new people. So this year, only 3 people that were chosen from the middle have fought in Heroics before. That's
great.
Earl Louis, Duke Ark, Duke Uller, Sir Durangi, all first time. Durangi's been in the Heroics once before as an unbelt, but these were all their first time, fighting in Heroics on the chivalry side. So, sure. And then the other thing too is, if we look at the fighter here on the left, Griff, in the chainmail, His Majesty John, Sir Tristram, these are all guys that are chivalry or kings from their respective kingdoms, and that are obviously top of their kingdoms, but they've never been able to be showcased here before. So this is a great opportunity to have them get showcased as well, and then mix in with some of the legendary fighters, like the Duke Fabians, the Duke Ronvalders and stuff like that. So
Maynards and the Dougs, for sure.
Yep, and the Maynards and the Dougs, yeah, absolutely.
And this fight right here is a first timer as well. This is a fighter from Atlanta that I chose. That's Sir Wilhelm Battlebore. He won Ruby Joust this year. He's always top of his game. Strong, fast, just great fights, and it just the rattan gods did not smile upon this man today. That's all.
Yeah, so this
That's
is a
all.
quick
This
fight.
was
Yeah,
this
is a quick fight.
fate.
So
This was fate, unfortunately, and that's the game right there.
yeah.
He backs
So
up, talks about it, and he's
yeah, he recognized that. Yeah, it was checks with the marshal, which was great on his part.
he
To
was not
confirm.
he wasn't pleased, but who would be?
Yeah,
I totally get it.
I-
You know,
yeah, and I'll admit, Griff had a secret weapon there.
Yeah.
He had a Duke Valharic whisper into his ear right before that fight.
and that was and that was that was his first time out there too. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll find himself back out there one
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. I got a chance to do some pickups with Wilhelm last year at Pennsic.
Mhm.
Great guy. Really loved what he came out with. Wasn't flashy or anything, but just super solid.
Very effective.
Yeah.
Who's next?
So this is Almaric, who is one of our Kings champion versus
Let me tell you something. I want to tell you something funny.
about William Death.
No, well, about both of this.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, William Death is a fixture in the East. He's an accomplished fencer, an accomplished rattan fighter, and myself and His Majesty Tyndall made the decision together that this was the right thing. This was the time. He's such a good polearm fighter. He's such an asset. Let's showcase him. It's his first time. It's his first time on Rattan Heroics. He has now since fought every Sunday champions battle there is to fight.
That's phenomenal.
On the Rapier side and Rattan side. So this was a feather in his cap, and I was happy as hell to give it to him because you can't find a better guy, and man, like his polearm is super solid. Now, your fighter, I was looking for him on the field, and a lot of y'all dressed the same. And I could have sworn that I had him ticked off my notepad as on the melee.
Yeah.
And he obviously was not, as I questioned you, and I apologize for it.
Oh no, that's fine.
But
I'm all fine. Check but verify.
A lot of y'all have the same kind of Norman kits.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But this is not the matchup I wanted for Will. I want to be very clear about that. I know that your fighter is very skilled. I watched his film from, I think that was Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, because he wasn't on my radar until that film. So
yeah.
I kept an eye out for his name and for his heraldry on all the mid-realm videos that I watched throughout the year. This is not the matchup I wanted. I do feel that Will did a good job keeping that point threat real.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a really really good job for sure. So Almeric on the left here, he's definitely one of those guys that like just kind of popped up on my radar too,
Sure.
within the last year or so.
Where is he out of?
He is out of the Panamera region, which is Michigan. So
Okay.
yeah, the western part of Michigan. So he had previously lived over on the eastern side of Michigan, closer to the dark yard practices, and then moved
Sure.
over to the western part of Michigan. And he's lefty, really fast, really good. So some super good stuff from him. When I stepped down, immediately went and did pickups with the guy, and got my ass handed to me, and I wasn't happy. So
yeah,
good for him.
He's very skilled. He's very skilled. He did a great job, maintaining his head defense from that thrust. Because I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of guys in the East that can just thrust me in the face at will. Will Death is one of them.
Yeah,
he just has great point control, and I'm like, the whole time I'm like, find it, Will. And he thought, but at the same time, the last thing you want to do is overextend on a guy like that.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of this kind of mid-realm, footwork, jumpy, kind of pressure on, pressure off type of style going on here too with Almeric. So, and I think it was a good matchup.
Oh, for sure. And Will Death is cool as a cucumber at all times. There's not a lot of stuff that phases him. and I'm super happy that Eric, there it is, and then he
Yep.
jumps him.
Yep.
And yeah,
And just the constant pressure, the constant like
yeah, there it is.
the rotation of the shield around. I was listening to some rapier guys looking over the fencing and stuff like that, the heroics. And one of the things they mentioned about Will Death, that they wanted to stop and watch him because they know him, and
He's
they just
highly
nothing but love
respected
for him.
rapier. Yeah,
Absolutely. Really good
respected. I was
guy.
super happy to showcase a guy that does really great crossover.
Yeah. Yeah, we lost the opportunity to have one kind of stalwart on the armored heroics this year because he went over to the rapier heroics. So we didn't have His Grace Edmund on our side on
Gotcha.
the armored heroics. So we finally we matched your William Death with Duke Edmund. So
fair enough. And here comes a fight that
oh
is yep, this was I've been a fan of Xerxes, His Grace Xerxes, for a long time, ever since I saw his video when he first won his first crown when he was God knows how young. And thinking to myself, I will never ever be that fast. And I finally got to meet him at Beer and Brats, which was lovely, and it was great to find out that he's even cooler guy than he is a fighter.
absolutely awesome dude.
He is awesome to hang out with, and once I saw the opportunity here of what was playing out, right? This is the fight that the crowd should get, and this was. I mean, you've got talk about old school, new school. You've got the legendary lefty of the world versus Duke Xerxes, who is just a unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just an
absolutely.
absolute unit.
And he was sitting in front of me the whole time as I'm sitting there going through all my stuff and everything, trying to figure out who's going to fight who. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, Xerxes, I know you were there. I know you're going to fight. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure you get the best fight you can get. So
and absolutely, and he was gung ho, all smiles about the opportunity, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what people have to understand, And pardon me, I have to go dark for a second, but I'm still talking, okay?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about this fight is like this is where you get to see Ron Valder in his his cool, calm collectiveness, where he and unlike everyone else, that's from the mid realm, that's high pressure, high, constantly pushing, pulling, trying to pull things out of people, with this intensity. Ron Valder instead is like, no, we're going to calm down here. We're going to chill. We're going to relax. So yeah, exactly. His Grace is talking about how he's slowing him down. And it really, it kind of, you can see it start with Xerxes being very high energy coming out there, throwing these shots. And now look at how much he's moving at a slower pace. He's taking more, measured footsteps in. Ron Valder starts to push a little pressure there, and Xerxes backs off. Where the start of the fight, Xerxes was like, no, I'm going to attack. Right there again, Ron Valder just motions to hitting him in the leg, and Xerxes is backing off. Because initially it looked like Xerxes was giving him pressure at front, and so Ron Valder just took it and pulled it out and just said, slow down. So I think it's this is like classic Ron Valder for people that have watched these fights before.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah, we can still hear you, Arn.
Awesome, great. Yeah, no, this was just such a great contest. Like a part of me was watching how Ron Valder was countering Xerxes being Xerxes.
Yeah, so Ron Valder, starting off like thinking that he was going to be faster and light-footed, and then seeing Xerxes moving at the speed and rate he was, slowing down, very much. You could see it play out in front of you, and watching these just big step back that Xerxes is doing. because of the pressure that he's throwing.
For sure.
And now Rongwalder has the time to put all the querying probes into place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that he was doing the whole time. Is he's building a catalog. He's cataloging everything that Xerxes doing. He's trying to figure, understanding how he's going to move, how he's going to do his attack, and so what step is he going to, do his lunge in on? Where's he going to do that? And so there, can you back it up? Go back to the lake shot.
Sure.
So Xerxes showed that he's got this like kind of double step in and then goes for an attack. And then go ahead and play from here. Oh no, we missed it.
I just glitched. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
A little before that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Because if I'm Rongwalder, I'm watching the feet, I'm watching the hips, I'm watching the hand to see all that working together and seeing, okay, how is the attack coming in? So, because he took that little gather step forward on his lead foot, on his sword foot, and then that's when Rongwalder executed his attack because he knew that was the start to the fight.
It's a phenomenal leg shot.
Yeah. Yep. And then just let the shot come into the body, knowing that that's where the shot's going to go. Throw the shield there, get with the offside to the head. So now we are on the last fight. So by this point, from a points perspective, the mid realm was in the lead with 2 points. We had 2 wins more than the East had. So while this fight wasn't needed to determine points, to determine who was going to win the overall outcome of this war point, it's still Arn and I decided that we're still fighting this out.
Oh, for sure. For sure. No, that's what has to be done. Captains have to fight each other. If there's only captains left, then we got to do it for the crowd at least.
Yep. So this is the second time that Arn and I had actually been in the heroics against each other. So I am proud to say I've only had losses to Arn in the heroics. So
first time was in 2019. I was a newly made knight.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about our fights, Arn, is in that 2019, our fight lasted probably about close to 4 or 5 minutes. And you could hear people in the crowd, yelling at us to swing at each other and things like that. And we were, yeah. And because there was a lot of just like trying to read each other, trying to make sure like we were safe with where we were at, our positioning. We weren't trying to overcommit to anything. And, this time, silence. Everyone wanted to watch this.
Yeah, I mean, people that know fighting between our kingdoms know that an Arn Wigthegn fight is going to be a jockeying footwork duel, and that's what we gave him.
Yep. So yeah, so I'm not as high energy as the rest of the mid-round fighters, but still working the pressure, still pushing in,
And we've had some pretty recent reps against each other at 100 Minutes War. I knew that you were looking for my middle line thrust, and I was showing it a bit as just to keep you honest. But I knew that you knew that I was doing that. You know, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, ballroom dance music would be good for this fight, for sure. So, and one of the things I was looking for, actually, one of the things that I was watching for you to do is go for the offside, because I knew no matter what you were going to do, you were going to go for that center line thrust, and then you would turn it into an offside where you could.
Typically, yeah, that was definitely something I was looking for, and I could tell from our fight in 2019. You know, I threw the same combo 4 times. It was the onside leg to the offside head, and I wasn't trying to recreate that. I think I threw it maybe once here,
Yeah.
but you were essentially. I know you hold your shield high anyway,
Hmm.
but I felt as if you were holding it a little higher this time as bait.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too much bait. So this is a different shield, so trying to be a little bit more structured with what I'm doing, trying to get
Gotcha.
back to a same guard every time. So,
Well, it felt like bait to me, but good to know.
so it's and some of it is just my height and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's all.
Being 6'2".
I'm always very conscious of your height. I'm only 5'10" on the best of days, and the angles of your attacks come at angles I don't really want to defend consistently and constantly all the time. And I was trying my best to not overextend, and I felt that you were really gunning for the arm, or at least trying to set me up for the arm shot. Is that fair to say?
Somewhat. Really, what I was hoping to try to get in initially was an onside head, and so I think that's so my attacks to the offside were more to try to get you frozen um, into a
Sure.
position that would have opened up the onside head. Um, you stay at range too much for me to do some of the things that I do against a lot of my kingdom.
Sure.
So you know things that you saw things like Avantgarde do
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
his matchup. The offside leg shots that he throws is one of my favorite shots, and you don't get close enough to allow me to do this.
Thankfully.
Thank you, Sifrid, for posting, making sure everyone saw that comment. So I can always count on His Grace to give me feedback to help improve my fight, which is always much appreciated, Your Grace.
So my wife was not at war this year, and she asked me, not how my fight was, but how boring my fight was this year. Is what my wife asked me, and I said, well, I won, but I guess you can call it boring. She's like, good, all your fights are boring. I'm like, oh, babe.
Yeah.
Well, they're not boring to us.
Yeah, no. And so I think some of, yeah, so you went for that offside, that deep offside, and I was
Yep,
prepared for it. So it brought that sword down immediately.
yep. There, I
And I
got my arm.
was,
I got my arm back. That was close, man. I got my
yeah,
arm back in time. Um,
yeah,
Thankfully. Um, I thought you were coming in hard. That's why I threw the offside head.
yeah. So I was prepared for it. I went shooting for it for that offside, just because it was there and I saw it. Yeah, that I was trying to get that, and you
Yep.
had on another angle of that shot, you can see how you just slid your head out of it.
Yep. Yep. You chucked down and I kind of matrix a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, so I caught that with the tip of my shield, and my shield actually had hit my helmet. So
What, the onside?
yeah, that
So
onside shot
yeah,
you threw there.
if I had gone on my tippy toes like I usually do when I throw that, I probably would have been able to thread that needle, but I was too much on my heels, and that's why I came in on that angle. I was really happy with that attempt though.
Yeah. And then you got me in the arm when I rushed in. So I did something that.
You shot the leg. I was too far off, and
Yep.
I cut down as well, and it went right into what was like the inside forearm.
No, actually. So what happened was, as I started to bring my arm down for the block, you clipped right here on my arm.
Gotcha.
Like right above my elbow, right on my elbow cup. So, and it left enough of a stinger. I was like, yep, I got hit there. So I think this goes for another, minute or so.
It goes for a little bit, but
yeah.
As always, my good friend, our contests are always epic. They're always well matched. I feel as if you rushed. I mean, like, I was waiting for you to rush in. That's what it was.
Yep. I was waiting for.
You did a great job defending, by the way. Your stick work here and your stick blocking was quite good.
Yeah, it's actually funny. So my wife was watching this fight. She was over on the side with his Grace Kellic, the other marshal on the field, and as you came in, I made an attempt to try to hit you in the body.
I don't know.
Wasn't a good attempt. Wasn't a good attempt, but I tried. I was like, it's my Hail Mary, and
you were just too close.
Yeah, and his Grace Kellic saw it, and his Grace Kellic was like thinking that was the killing blow, and he was about ready to announce it for me, and then I was like, I'm dead, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to announce it for Wigthegn.
Oh, that's who said the words blow to the body in the one footage. I forget whose footage it was, but I heard blow to the body. I'm all like, what blow to the body?
Yeah, because his Grace was there, and he saw it, and he saw that hit there, and so, or the attempt at a hit there, and I was like, no, there wasn't any, nothing was there.
Yeah, unfortunately, you were off center and far too close for that to connect, but it was a valiant Hail Mary.
Yep, it was a Hail Mary, absolutely. So cool. So we've got through all the heroics for Pennsic.
That went pretty fast.
Sivrid, you're
try
muted,
that again without a mute, and then that brings us to the end of the heroics. It also brings us about to the end of time. We're actually right at 9:30, so we about the right time to be wrapping up. So I'll give you a chance, both of you, to give any final concluding comments.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it, Aaron.
Sure, man. So again, as I mentioned to you on the field, it was an absolute pleasure working with you. Hope to do it again. I think we had great matchups. We made great calls, and our ability to, not only do what's right for our war point, but also for the crowd and for those who have traveled so far to be put, into this spectacle. I think we both did. I think we both did well.
Yeah, absolutely. Having the first time to be able to, pick the team, put the people out there myself. It was a great fight. I really enjoyed it. And it's good to be able to play the chess match or the Pokemon game against a friend too. So, Arn and I have known each other for years. We were friends before this. We're friends after this, and so, it's always a pleasure to do this against such a great and honorable opponent.
Absolutely, man. Again, I hope we get to do it again. I got to run. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you both for such a great review of all the different all those fights. It's a great time to be able to go through and review those. I'll just remind people that next week we do have a show. We have the review of the melee battles from Pennsic 51. So be sure to join us next week. Same time, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for all the great comments and conversation in the discussion. And last piece, I want to say thank you very much. This is all the footage here was from Renegade Paladin's YouTube channel, and thank you very much for filming those, because the people who film it make it possible for us to actually have these great review shows. So thanks very much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you.